One and all, welcome back to Illustrated by DeForrest, where, well, I'm on camera, so I must have something special for you. My name is DeForrest, and I will be your host. For this episode, I'm going to show you how to create a basic sketch you can very easily follow along with. This time, it will be an eye. In the decades I've done character design and illustration, I've drawn maybe about 4 or 5 of these, so I'm sure I could be considered the best in the world at this point. To see some examples along with the rest of the characters' bodies, I guess, you can visit lifeforever3.com. So, go get a pencil and a piece of paper. This one goes out to all the ladies, gents, and all glorious people regardless of zipper codes. Anyone who wants to learn and better themselves with illustration. Now, yes, I'm using an iPad, a desktop, and other marvels of tech to bring this to you. But this is for the bride, kid, or geriatric who just wishes to get started with their very first drawing, and also wants a professional to be right there with them to show them the way. I'll be that guy for you. And it'll only take about 10 or 15 minutes, if even. I'm going to put a timer in real time for the sketching portion of this video. Alright, so I have Adobe Fresco loaded up, and I'm going to keep this on the pencil with pressure sensitivity affecting opacity. So there you can at least see what I'm actually doing. Also, I'm going to keep it at the same size for this small challenge. I want to simulate this the best I can for our analog friends. If you're going to go that route, I recommend that you get at least a light pencil around 4H or so. And behold, I also have a reference. Even grizzled vets still use references because it's our job to draw everything, not know everything. Any eye diagram or picture should work, and I think this one works well for this demonstration. So the very first thing that we're going to do, let's get rid of this boring white looking paper. Let's give it something it's actually kind of fun. So the very first times I started drawing, I found some light blue paper that was just around the house. No idea what it was for, but it was way better than using just plain notebook paper or plain copy paper. So we're going to do that. You can choose whichever light color that you'd like. Let's put this back on black and select the pencil. Have it at 16 points. I'm going to turn down just a little bit. And that's kind of the beauty of mechanical pencils. You can keep using them as much as you want and you'll retain the exact same size and shape. First thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the general outline of the eye. I'm going to turn the paper sideways. Because like I said in the last episode, turn the paper however you like to. I'm just going to start with a very quick sketch here. And I'm holding the pencil with my right hand because I'm right-handed. I'm just going to start by going along the natural curve of my hand. Then I'm going to turn it a complete 180 and do the exact same thing. Draw as comfortable as your hand allows you to. Alright, so that was pretty quick. We already have our outline of the eye right there. Now, next thing we're going to do is draw the tear duct, which is going to be right next to your nose. So I'm going to just draw it right here, just for grin. So this one is going to be a right eye. Now, if you're familiar with Adobe Fresco or not, when I double tap it like this, that's just going to turn my pencil to an eraser. Now I see a mistake that I made. Well, that's fine. So, just realized I didn't put this on a separate layer, which, okay, that's cool. How do we fix that? Well, we're going to click on the background layer. First I'm actually going to take the color, click on the background layer, and just fill that. Oh, this is literally popped up saying I can't fill that type of layer. Well, that's fine. Let's create a new layer and fill that in, and there we go. Now, back to where we were at. Yeah, I'm actually going to include the mistakes I make here because, yeah, people make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Alright, so we got our tear duct. Once again, this is a right eye because the tear duct is going to be on the right side right there, facing you. And I'm going to put like a little bit of a, not necessarily tear duct, but more of the fleshy portion of the eye that you don't see that's on the interior. Remember, this is an actual sphere that we're drawing. Alright, next thing we're going to do, speaking of spheres, is we're going to draw a circle for the pupil. So we're going to draw a little dot right there just to make it show that the eye is looking directly at the viewer. And as you can see, I'm starting to draw around that dot. As you can see, I'm going outside of our first outline. Now, admittedly, this pupil's probably a little bit too big, but that's fine. This is all art. We can do whatever we want here. Okay, so we're drawing a big circle for the iris, which is going to go outside of that eyelid because we're going to erase it. And naturally, You don't see the entire iris when somebody looks at you, unless they go extremely wide-eyed. Let's take that around. I'm going to blow this up a little bit. I know I say that you always want to start small, which is what I've been doing. But just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to probably bring this up a little bit bigger. Now, we're going to erase what we don't need. Let's see if I can turn the eraser up a little bit. Or I can just use this right here, I guess. Either one works. Now, we have our iris. Let's switch back to the pencil. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to draw our pupil, which is the inner part of the eye. That's a little sloppy. Let's try that again. Alright, so, and even that dot is a little weird. So if you're ever wondering, like, how to fix up your poop. Wow. Yeah, that's what I said. So if you're ever wondering how to fix up your pupil, you want to draw a bigger dot until you keep drawing. You can just keep drawing it until you feel like it is where your eyes should be looking. So I feel like that's a little bit better there. I'm going to draw another circle around that. Very basic sketch. Remember, we're sketching, so this is the rough draft of what we actually want. So we're drawing that, and then I'm just going to fill it in. If you want to use a darker pencil at this point, that's perfectly fine, but I wouldn't make it too dark because later on we're going to be erasing some of this. So if you're using analog, I would keep it at 2H at the very maximum. Alright, so we have our basic eye. Now, we have our basic eye, we have the pupil, we have our iris. Next thing we're going to do is make an eyelid, which is actually pretty basic. So you probably, maybe you haven't noticed, is that when you look at your eyelid, when your eye is open, it's just a really basic line that's kind of showing that wrinkle just right above the eye. Now, one other thing I'm going to do now that we're at this point is I'm going to make the top line right here just a little bit thicker, just to kind of simulate those thick eyelashes up top, and just to kind of keep it on track of what the top of the eye is and what the bottom is. So, a little bit darker line right there. Alright, so, and speaking of that, we're actually going to focus on, just put a little bit more on the eyelid. We're going to keep our focus on the eyelashes at this point. I'm going to start on this side, because of the direction that the eyelashes are going. I'm going to flip it this way and start drawing by just pressing out and pressing and just drawing extremely light as I go along. Now I'm doing it in this direction for a reason. If you've noticed, I'm starting with, we're going to draw a big circle right here. I'm starting by putting my pencil here and then drawing outward. Now that's simulating the actual growth of human hair by drawing from the root, and I'm just going to draw outward. Let's just turn just to take a look at where I'm going with this. Don't put too much thought into it, just keep going, and remember your eyelashes can, remember it's hair, so it's not always perfectly straight out. We're going to have some eyelashes in a little bit different direction, make them look a little bit wild. Now we have a few eyelashes on the bottom as well, so to get that natural curl, as you can see in that hair, I'm tilting the whole canvas that way because that's the direction that I'm drawing in. We are drawing out more and more of our eyelashes here. And there we go, that's pretty basic right there, which is fine. We have our eyelid, we have our eyelashes. Now let's do a little bit stylizing inside of the iris now. So we're going to draw 4 lines right here. Now I'm going to draw 4 more lines right here. What do all these lines have in common? They are going from the edge and pointing into the center of the eye. Why are we doing that? Because we're going to simulate, and just make sure you stay on direction, pretty much that texture that is inside of the iris, the part that gives the eye its color. I'm just going to keep drawing inside there. Don't worry if you go outside the lines because we can just erase. And once again, this is a sketch. This is just something for you to relax, and if you're a beginner, then you're a beginner. That's perfectly fine. So now let's actually zoom out and see what we got here. That's looking pretty decent, and when you think about it, like, yes, we stare at the eyes whenever we communicate with anybody, so it's a very important part of the body, but funny enough, is a very small part of the body. Amazing how important that is. Like, how much surface area does the eye take up in relation to the entire human form? Like, less than 1% maybe? So, you don't want to spend so much time, unless your artwork really is focusing on directly the eyes or as a portrait, we're only going to spend so much time on it. But this is a pretty good foundational study right here. We have that texture of the iris in, but if you feel your own eye, make sure you do this with your eye closed, please. If you feel your own eye, the iris feels like a dome. It's how contact lenses work. So we want to try to put a little bit of 3D effect into this. Best way to do that is about halfway into the eye. We are going to, halfway into the iris, I mean. We're just going to do a little bit of a darker layer like right here. If you want to draw a circle first to make sure that this part stays circular, you can, but I don't think it's really necessary because we're actually going to erase part of that in just a minute. Let's go in. We're not going to go all the way in because we have that entire upper part of the iris that can't be seen right there. Let's come back to this side, and we're going to draw a little darker right here. Try to stay in the same direction of those lines as you go around. Don't worry if one part looks different than the other. You can see how different that left side is to that right, but that's fine. Alright, and once again, I wouldn't worry about, like you can see that this part's more circular than this. Once again, don't worry about that. We're going to end up erasing a lot of stuff regardless. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same, just slightly inside, right next to the pupil. We're going to go around, try to stay in the same direction. If you don't, perfectly fine as well. I'm leaving a lot of room for you to make mistakes here because it's not about getting everything perfect. It's about getting everything good enough, because trust me, good enough is way better than perfect, like 99% of the time. Okay, so if we zoom out, you can see how that iris texture is really starting to show here. I'm sorry if that looks a little too small on the screen. I'm just going to go slow, zoom in and out, just so you can see how well that works. Alright, so next thing we're going to do, and if you recognize that or not, we have to remember that we're drawing a spherical object. The entire eye is one big ball that's inside your skull. So we need to add a little bit of shading to the sclera of the eye, or the white of the eye. And I'm just going to take a very light pencil all over the entire thing right here. So the darker areas represent the shading of the eye, of the entire eyeball, and the lighter parts appear closer. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit more of that effect inside of the iris itself, and this is why I was saying you don't really need to make sure this is all circular, because what we're going to do, there we go, what we're going to do is we're going to take our eraser, that's not coming across very well, let's use the actual eraser on this. We're going to take the eraser and just very gently erase pretty much that border between the dark and that light part of the iris that we drew. And you don't have to go all the way around, it's your choice if you like to. I'm going to erase just this portion right here, and that'll really make the iris appear to be a 3D object. So we have our darker area, we have our lighter area, and we have our slightly darker area, and then the even more darker area, and then the pupil. So we got all those different layers that we've drawn right here. When you zoom out, that eye's looking more and more realistic. So, final part to focus on now is whenever you're outside, you're in a room, or even next to a window, light is reflecting in and reflecting on that eye, no matter what the light source is. And typically the light source is above you. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take, let's see this, we're going to take the eraser and just erase this part right here. Now I'm just drawing like a circle right here because the light source can be the sun, which is circular. The light source can be a light that's inside of a room, which is also typically a circle. Sometimes you have multiple light sources, and we can do that by, actually I'm going to erase this, and this is where we can get a little bit creative. We can do, let's turn this down. We can recognize that there are maybe 3 lights, like even in my office right here, I have a fan. It has 4 light bulbs above me. You can recognize all 4 light sources by erasing 4 circles right here. So you could also be next to a window. You need that light source to come through, and one thing you can do is actually draw the window inside of the eye. So we're going to do one rectangle right there, another one right there, another one right here, and another one right here. So that is the Windows light reflecting right there in your eye in a very basic sketch. Now you can even get crazier with this by, let's do something a little more stylized. How about I put a star in the middle of it? It's like this is where anime can kind of come in and do all those different type of effects. So I can put a star in there. That's one style. Now I know this has weird implications when you talk about anime, but you can also put a heart in there. And maybe even on the other side we could put another star. Then we could put another, just for extra shine, you can add another circle into that. Or another thing you can do, you can just hollow out the entire pupil if you want. You can do this for like machines or androids or whichever. Or just give some extra style onto that all its own. At this point you can do just pretty much whatever you think is right. I'm going to put the original circle back in there. And the whole point is that you should shine in your own way with your artwork. I hope you enjoyed this challenge. You can get yourself the home version by visiting the shop at lifeforever3.com. And I have a digital worksheet based on this lesson you can get for 40% off for a limited time. Just use the code I4. Also check out the Starting Small worksheet that's also on sale with the code STAR3. These are simple yet powerful methods I've used in the past with demonstrations and seminars. I'm sure it'll help you along your illustration journey. If this episode helped you in any way, or even if it made you hate drawing even more, leave a comment celebrating that fact. You can also hate watch us more by subscribing to our channel, and new episodes are on the 3rd of every month. And we'll have the grand finale of my original work, Lene and Lelena, in May. Moving to me, peace.